Last few seconds here. We're now on to the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of our last meeting, the financial reports, and the staff reports. Are there any items or any issues that people would like to pull off for further discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve those three items. Thank you. Second? Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. They stand approved. We're now on to our regular agenda. And first off, it's my pleasure to welcome Bill Lawson. Bill is well known to many of us in the room, having been the former county administrator, but now is with the Friends of the Constitution Trail. So Bill, welcome. And
thank you. I appreciate it. We appreciate the opportunity. I think it's a great idea to bring community groups in and let them share their stories with the commission. So these are our officers. Pat Dillard is our president of the Friends of the Constitution Trail. Pat was unable to be here today. He was out of town. He apologizes. He would have liked to have been here. Our vice president is Missy McCarthy. Our secretary is Missy McCarthy. Our treasurer is Andrew Gale. And the remainder of our board members are listed there. We have about 250 members, active members in the Friends of the Trail. As you would expect, the large majority of those members are from Bloomington Normal and surrounding McLean County communities. What we try to do. So first, we want to be a problem solver, not a problem maker. And so we try to do our best to communicate and coordinate with local staff. We try to reduce the amount of work that local government agencies have to do on the trail. So we provide volunteer labor for a number of different activities: tree planting, sweeping, general maintenance. And we also provide some skilled assistance where we have capabilities. So we have in the past provided some expertise in grant assistance to local governments here in town. We have contracted with local engineering firms to do work that was necessary for a local government to submit a grant application. So we've done those types of things as well. And then finally, we try to contribute back to help improve and provide amenities for the trail that would otherwise not be available. And I'll go through a kind of a list of those. But remember, two things we have down here at the bottom. We don't operate the trail system, and we don't speak for our government partners, although I'm still really working hard to break the habit of we when I use that we, because I talk a lot about the trail system, and for many years we was me as part of the government, but now we are not speaking on behalf of our government partners. So if we go real quickly, for those that aren't familiar and have been around the community since 1982, a quick timeline of how the trail began. The first abandonments really took place around the community in the early 80s. And the first trail section of the Illinois Central IC branch that ran from Emerson in Bloomington to what was Normal Town Hall. It's now the police station in Normal. The trail ran that segment initially, and it also ran east out to Airport Road. And so those two sections were the very first sections of trail that were constructed. In '96, shows here Town Hall to Carrick, back when Carrick was out in the country. It's not any longer, but still have pictures of the elevators out there next to the trail. And there were two other segments that were actually constructed in 1996. What's called the interurban branch, the branch that runs out to Route 9 west of Bloomington here, and comes back in and ends not too far distant from here, just south of here. Also a section of path was constructed near State Farm Corporate South in 1996. So that's kind of the timeline that we progressed. The county adopted its first Greenways and Regionals Trail Plan in 1997. And then the initial design of Route 66 segments was approved in 1999, and the first trail section was constructed in 2009. Today, over the entire network, we have approximately just under 60 miles of trail. Approximately 27 of those are Route 66 today, with the remaining about 32 being inside the urban area of Bloomington Normal. So we've made a lot of progress in a lot of different ways. As you may or may not know, just a couple of quick updates. There will be 6 miles of Route 66 trail constructed this year. Funk's Grove to McLean will be completed. That will complete the southern leg of that trail. And approximately 2 miles, 1 mile on each end of Lexington will also be constructed. And the reason that those are being constructed as is that they are pavement in place sections. They are sections where the 1940s abandoned pavement is still in place, and that there was an opportunity for about a $600,000 grant if we could find a project, if the county could find a project that would fit that amount. And they were able to identify those 2 sections to extend the section that already exists in Lexington. And so there's an existing 2-mile section in Lexington, and almost 2 miles will be added to that. There's an existing 1-mile section in Chenoa. And then we have about a 2.9, almost 3-mile gap between the Towanda North Trailhead and what will be the Lexington section. And then we have about 3.5, 4 miles between the Lexington section and the Chenoa section. So why do we have a Friends of the Trail group? Even in the beginning, there were challenges when developing trail programs. People have questions. People are unsure. It's in their backyard. What are the costs going to be? And so these are all newspaper clippings from 1986, and the discussion of the first segments of the trail. But the formation of the Friends took place in 1989 and was primarily driven by City Council member Hugh Atwood. And so there were 3 champions that I would say from a local government perspective for the Constitution Trail. Hugh Atwood was on the City Council, City of Bloomington. Garrett Scott was the council member for the town of Normal. And those 2 gentlemen were, I think no one would disagree, the champions of the construction of the first sections of the Constitution Trail. And then, as we talk about Route 66 and the extension of the trail into the rural communities and rural areas, John English was a county board member. He was a hobby arborist, and ultimately he was a significant endowment donor to the Friends of the Trail that gave us the capabilities, some of the capabilities that we have today. That was a champion from the county board standpoint in looking to expand and build the Constitution Trail. So our mission is to promote and expand the Constitution Trail and increase its use to assist Bloomington Normal and other governmental entities of McLean County in the development and beautification of the trail. That's right out of our bylaws. So that is our mission. And what do we do? So that's one of 2 semi-loads of trees that we planted this spring in Chenoa. We are working with Chenoa on what we call the Towanda strategy. Before funding ever came to do pavement improvements for the trail and the initial segments of construction under the intergovernmental agreement that exists between all the communities along the Route 66 and the county, Towanda took it upon themselves, seeing the 1997 Greenways Plan, and said, that's a great idea. We're a 400-person community. We're going to do something. And they began the process of reactivating that abandoned infrastructure to turn it into community benefit. What we do today is we plant trees, we've constructed shelters. We actually do the tree planting. We coordinate, we recruit, we obtain equipment, and we go out with permits from IDOT, the Friends of the Trail, in cooperation with our governmental partners. We do the vast majority of the work on those projects. Same with the trail shelters that have been constructed. Water fountains that you'll see have typically been donated by the Friends, and the Trail Counters Project, which is invisible to most users, but is really important to our governmental partners when they go to apply for grants, to have a history and information on usage. So the installation of counters across the network has been an important component that the Friends have provided for. As of this year, about a month ago in our financial reports, we determined that the Friends have contributed directly, either financially or by equipment or improvements, over $500,000 to the community for trail development, and we're really proud of that. I've talked about technical support. I've talked about equipment. We provided the first snow removal equipment to the city and the town so that we could keep trails open during the winter season. And we do outreach. You'll see us at summer festivals, at light nights, cleanups. We also are the umbrella entity for the bike education program in town. It's under our nonprofit auspices that the grants were obtained for the bikes and the trailer, and those types of things. And then we use resources from a number of different communities and partners to get that done. And these are all our community partners that play very big parts in helping us to do what we do. And we want to acknowledge them and say thank you to them all who are here. Advocacy. We do advocacy. And first of all, I'll note that the National Trails Day celebration is this Saturday. And if you want free ice cream, just make a quick trip. You can even drive to the Connie Link Amphitheater if you can't find a way to get on the trail, and come and visit, because we'll be there. And we'll be celebrating National Trails Day with a number of different community organizations that are involved. But we also do engagement with public officials and with private sector entities. And I will give you a couple of examples. McLean County was lucky enough to receive one of 4 raise/build US DOT grants, which was a competitive grant process. Four were awarded in the state of Illinois. Only one that was a bike ped project, and it was for those two gaps that we talked about between Towanda and Lexington and Shenoa. For the preliminary engineering and design work to get those two gaps filled. The new administration has determined that they want to review all those awards for consistency with current objectives, and so we're still awaiting, the county is still awaiting release of those funds. But we've been engaged along with governmental partners to talk with Congressman LaHood, whose district the entire project is in, and to encourage him to support this important project. And I will say that some people look at a bike ped project and question whether it's about different things. I will tell you that there have been, in the last 5 years, that data is available for from Towanda up to Shenoa, within the half-mile radius from Route 66, there has been either a major pedestrian fatality or a bicycle fatality, or a what they call a Class A injury resulting from a crash with a pedestrian or a bike within that corridor. And it's a safety issue. There are lots of people who utilize the trail for community day-to-day recreation from our communities. There are also a lot of people that bike. Route 66 is something they do as a lifetime activity. And so to ensure that we've got a safe environment for tourists and also for our own residents to utilize those areas, that's been one of the primary benefits of the Route 66 trail. And it's accomplished it where it's been constructed. It's moved people who don't have good places to get out and look at the historic scenic byway an opportunity to do that. And so we're working hard along with our national partners like the League of Bicyclists to, again, encourage the release of the funds. And we're hopeful that after a quick review, we'll see those in the coming days. I look at today's challenges, and I pulled this up, and it says bicycle hits man on trail. And many of you may be familiar with an accident we had in 22 on the ISU campus where a bicyclist hit and unfortunately ultimately killed an individual on the campus at ISU. But this isn't from that. This is from 1986. This is from before the ribbons. If you notice, there's another cutout here from the same period saying we're going to cut a ribbon on the trail. Before the ribbon was ever cut, we had a very unfortunate accident on the trail, on the first segment's trail. It did not ultimately lead to a fatality, but the individual was in significant arrest for a number of days. And back then there were discussions about should we ban bikes from the trail? Should we only have, I can show you the clippings and the dialogue that went on then about that. And if I go through a period of time, I can pull out maybe 3 or 4 different other occasions during the life of the Constitution Trail where there have been challenges relative to safety and how users use the trail. But they aren't dramatically different than the same questions that we had 30 years, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. So some of these discussions are discussions that we're having now in the community. There's a couple of different surveys out online. If you're interested in doing those, you can find them online. Both Illinois State University and Normal have surveys out trying to get feedback on what the problems are and how to diagnose those. And the Friends are doing what we can to assist in that process, to help develop information and data so that folks can understand what the utilization of the facility is and what risk may be apparent as we look at that. But there are also a number of different strategies to deal with certain situations, and those include 4 different items there: restrictions, regulations, signs, service markings, and education. We have new users today with e-bikes, especially. We have new users today that weren't physically capable of using bikes, at least at this time in their life. And so we've introduced the availability of the trail to a whole new sector of people, which is a good thing generally, to be inclusive. The challenge is for us to be able to educate and make sure that they can do that in a safe manner and that everybody can enjoy the trail together. So I put this slide in most of mine. Good fortune is what happens when opportunity meets planning. I thought it was most appropriate for this group. This is a slide that we use when we talk to other communities about trail planning. And one of the things I wanted to just highlight real quickly is it says, identify opportunities, the path of least resistance, right? And so in 1997, I happened to be the Parks and Recreation Director for McLean County. And I was on the Greenways Committee that wrote the first Greenways plan. And we had a chairman, and her name was Gretchen Monty. And a few of you know Gretchen, probably not all of you. But Gretchen was the chairman of the group. And we had a railroad right-of-way that I'll talk about real quickly in a couple of slides that looked like it was primed to be abandoned. And I had worked for the Forest Park Foundation over in Peoria County, and they bought and then donated the Rock Island Trail to DNR. And so I was very acquainted with the process of abandoning railroads and doing those things. And I was hyped up on this idea that we were gonna build that trail. And the chairman of my committee, Miss Monty, said to me, Bill, she said, don't let the perfect take the good away. And this is what Route 66 in Towanda looked like in 1998. The first trees, you can see the first trees had been planted for the trail development, but almost all with volunteer labor and a community of 400 people. I use this regularly to show people what's possible. And those are 2 pictures taken from the very same location today. And those crumbling, abandoned infrastructure areas have been transformed into community assets where people, I live in Lexington, so I drive Route 66 almost every day into town. And it amazes me even that there are people actively utilizing the sections in Towanda every time I drive by. I mean, every time I drive by. And it has just been, it's a story worth telling. But, those ideas have to come from somewhere. And those ideas need to be shared with state agencies and other local agencies. And so plans like the Greenways Plan, the Go Safe Plan, the city's bicycle master plan are essential to accomplishing what we need to accomplish from both a recreation and an active transportation standpoint in the community. I was lucky enough to work closely with the folks from what today is the community's second largest employer. And when they came to town, one of the reasons that they came to this town, there were 30 auto plants, mothballed auto plants across the Midwest. 30, just in the Midwest. And one of the reasons that they came to this community was there was more to the community than just a kind of a hollow leftover shell. They saw that active transportation, trails, ways for people to get around the community were available, and we were working forward. And it's been a great benefit to the community. My membership committee would never forgive me if I did any public presentation without saying, if you're not a member of the Friends, $15 will get you in the door. So join us, please, if you have an opportunity. constitutiontrail.org, and just click on membership. It's easy to find. We would love to have you. My group would also not forgive me if I said, I did mention that 2009 was the last time, I think, that our Greenways and Regional Trails Plan was updated. And we hope that that is something that is in the future contemplations. So an update to that plan so that we can have new proposals for sections. The county administrator's office before this meeting stopped in. The mayor of Hayworth had questions about interconnections between, they have a ITEP project and Illinois Transportation Enhancements Project where they're improving a section along 136 with bike and pedestrian path. And his question was, how can we connect? Same question we've been hearing from rural communities for years. And so whether it's Downs and Leroy, and we continue to talk, that railroad that I told you was, the abandonment was imminent, and kind of like that. Imminent, it still has not been abandoned by the railroad, Norfolk and Southern, for a multitude of reasons that I don't have time to go into today. But we continue to talk with them about that. And in fact, we just finished a meeting with Champaign County to ensure that from Mansfield to Mohammed is included in their long-term plans, comp plans, so that we can make sure that that railroad right-of-way connection is in place. But as you see, there hasn't been previously any thought to the sections that go south formal. There's been discussions and background, and I can give you lots of information about the corridors, but there's not been anything done formally. And when plans aren't adopted formally, it's difficult for government agencies to utilize them as they work to obtain funding from our state and federal partners. And so, again, I would encourage you to think about those types of updates when you have a chance. And I understand all the limitations and restrictions. They asked for general background. That's a general background. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I apologize, I've probably taken way more than my allotted time.
Not a problem. Any question for Bill about the trail?
I thought the first slide contained a good trivia question. At the end of the trail north of Carrick, there's a boulder and said the original site of the Bloomington Normal Airport.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we talk about projects that have not met fruition. So some of the oldest projects, and I'll stand up real quick to say, so this section right here has been a section we've been trying to build forever. And the city just got funding for that this spring, which is great news, because once they connect down to here, we've got that connection made. But we've always talked about getting to Evergreen Lake and Kamwater Park. We've always talked about Sugar Creek, running through Sugar Creek. Those are opportunities that I would say are better today than they were in the past because of changes in the way that people review things. I will tell you, in 1997, transportation professionals didn't worry about bike and pedestrian transportation, other than where the crosswalks went. And today, they are our partners. They are our active partners. They've been working really hard to try and help us get the Chenoa Railroad crossing solved, which has been a problem. And we've been working with the city of Chenoa and with IDOT and TPNW on that. We mentioned that we also work with some private sector. Sometimes private sector entities would prefer to work with a nonprofit than a governmental entity. Sometimes there are tax implications, sometimes there are other implications. But we will step in and try and help when we can on those. And that's been an instance that, fingers crossed, that should be, we should see a resolution to that this year from everything that I'm told. So I'm hopeful. Bloomington and Mansfield, there's actually a meeting with Norfolk and Southern this week. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
Any other plans in terms of how you're dealing with e-bikes and e-scooters?
Yeah, so it is probably the hot button issue relative to trail use right now. And so I think for us, our view is we need to understand it better. We understand that an isolated occurrence can happen any place, anytime, anywhere. But we need to understand, so what we have done is we actually bought and have donated some radar equipment to begin the process of trying to determine if we really do have speed problems on the trail, if they're related to e-bikes. I'm going to be honest here.
Regular bikes.
I'm going to be honest. I for a long time, the reason I used the trail was for training, and I was training. I was riding really hard, and so I guarantee you, I was exceeding 20 miles an hour or 25 miles an hour on my road bike. And in some areas, that's not a problem. But in other areas, especially like the IC branch between Emerson and Willow, I would say, especially in that area around the campuses, it becomes a different issue. And there are different things that I think that can be explored, and we've talked about with city staff, city and county and town staff. And, for instance, we don't have a center line anywhere. And I'm the parks guy who agrees that I hate to put a line on those paths. I just hate it. And even if we have to, I'd make it green. But sometimes people need help to remember that they ought to stay on one side of the path and they ought to provide a side of the path for somebody to pass. We have put together some signage, and we're trying to work on some educational processes that we're going to try and do, especially with the return of students in the fall, on reminding folks that they need make people aware they're passing. It's, if you use the trail a lot, it's not uncommon at all for you to know that people say on your left, when they're passing. And then we used to have signs that said on your left and all that kind of good stuff. Or ring your bell, right? Mm-hmm. Or ring your bell. Both our pedestrian users and our new e-bike users, neither one today are really used to that kind of a system of warnings and acknowledgement and let people know. So it is something that we need to work on, and we need, but I think our organization has always believed that the success of the trail has been its ability to be broadly inclusive. It's been a lot of things to a lot of different people, right? For some people, it's a way to get to work or a way to get to school. For other people, it's an opportunity to enjoy nature. For other people, it's an opportunity to exercise or train. For others, it's an opportunity to socialize. And so, and it's seniors next to parents and little kids, next to folks my age, right, out on the trail. And so that, in our mind, has been the success. When I was in Parks and Rec, 99% of what we do is focused on one particular user, whether it's a ballpark or a court or a tennis court or anything we build, or a picnic, even a picnic area. It's designed for people to come and have a picnic. But the trail does multiple things for multiple people. And we think that that's been the success story of the trail, is it's been inclusive. And so we think that safely, we should be as inclusive as we possibly can be. But it's a work in progress.
Yeah, because the Constitution Trail is a selling point in terms of quality of life, quality of place for the local communities. And you're right, Rivian came here with seeing some of the things that we had to offer that were totally different than some of the other communities that they had considered. So the more we can, the more we can make this function it for everyone, the better off we are. And also expanding, I know there's some discussion about trying to get, and I think this is part of the larger bike plan for the state of Illinois, but to get from one end of McLean County to the other.
So
to the north south.
Well, from McLean County, as I said, we're 9 miles. As of the construction that will take place this year, we're 9 miles short of being done, less than 9 miles short of being done. That's going to get done. I am confident that that's going to get done. With that construction, also more than 50% of the entire state has trail, separated trail in place. And there is about 20%, including 20 miles just north of McLean County, just north of in Livingston County, there are 20 miles of continuous pavement in place. I told a national Rails to Trails staff member the other day. We were at a conference, and I told him that we can build trail on the existing pavement. We can, at a minimum, we can build it. We're building it in the sections that we've talked about today for approximately $300,000 a mile. And he looked at me and he said, don't use that number anywhere, because it'll just make everybody think they can do it for that much. And I said, the truth is, we believe we can do it for even less. And the way that we believe we can do it for even less is the Towanda, and I apologize, Ray, I'm killing you. I've been in this chair before. In Towanda, I said they started before we even started improving the pavement, right? They started planting trees and doing those things. And we're doing that in Chenoa right now. And unfortunately, Chenoa had enough money through a federal grant back in the late 90s to do, I think, like 3 miles. And then they couldn't get the railroad crossing done with the TP&W. And thankfully, a different railroad owned TP&W then. But they couldn't get the crossing done. And so we've got this 1 mile section that really doesn't have any connection to the town. It ends at 24, and it's difficult. And the thing that I really failed to talk about today is the importance of the Route 66 trail to economic development in these rural communities. And if you go and talk to our mayor in Chenoa, our Mayor Johansson in Lexington, and the mayor in McLean or Towanda, they all recognize that Route 66 is bringing folks in, and the trail is bringing folks in to those communities. And they are truly opportunities where we have, unfortunately, few opportunities for those rural communities to leverage economic development in this day. And so this is truly a great opportunity for that. But 50% of the trail is done, largely in urban areas. And but there's 20 miles in Livingston County that we think we're going to prove this year with the help of Chenoa. We're going to prove that just like Towanda did, you can use the pavement that exists there to make a reasonable, safe path for bikes and pedestrians with the existing 1940s pavement. Mm-hmm. And if we do that, we hope that we can show them, and we can show Montgomery County, who also has a huge section just south of Litchfield, the opportunities that exist for them to extend and make those connections. And soon we'll be down to a handful of miles. Okay?
Well, thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And if you want, you're more than welcome to stay. All right. We're now on to the housing coordinator position update.
Yes. So excited. It's just hard to transition. But the housing coordinator position, as most of you were here last month. So since then, we've been working with DCO, the state agency that gave us the grant. They're working on the grant agreement. We anticipate that to be done August, September. And then also we have been working with the county administration and the county HR, see what's the approach we need to take in order to get this position done. And we have to go through an RFP process, request for proposals, because it's going to be a contract employee rather than like a temporary full-time. And so there's different process for all this we have to go through, and we have to go to the county board for the approval. We have to come to you all, MCRPC, once that for approval, once that candidate will be selected. So we're working with HR in getting that RFP and also the job advertisement done. So we can advertise, do the interviews, then in time for the grant agreements and also the approvals by the county board and the MCRPC be done. So that will be the time frame that we're looking at. So making progress, but it's a lot of processing steps, that kind of thing that comes with the grant and other procedures that we did not anticipate. So that's kind of the latest on that position. Any questions?
Regional Housing Initiative.
Okay, Luke.
Yep.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here's an update for the regional housing initiatives. Under local updates, MCRPC facilitated the May housing staff meeting on May 22nd, and we will be hosting the June Affordable and Supportive Housing, or ASH committee meeting on June 16th. And MCRPC is also working on a new white paper It's mapping out which locations in the county are in higher need of affordable housing based on demographic data such as age, race, educational attainment, income, among other variables. And MCRPC is also working on submitting the required documents with regard to the 2025 CDBG agreement with the town. For other updates, MCRPC attended the Unhoused Task Force meeting hosted by the Center of Human Services on May 27th, and we will be attending a Housing Coalition meeting tomorrow, still hosted by the Center of Human Services at the Bloomington Public Library. We also attended a members-only meeting hosted by the Illinois Housing Council about the 2026 draft qualified the QAP. And so the draft qualified allocation plan explains how IDA intends to distribute tax credits to support affordable housing developments across Illinois. We also attended a virtual public hearing for the draft QAP hosted by IDA. And then last, we also attended the grantee onboarding training hosted by the CEO and, with regard to the RICE implementation. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Good. I assume, Ray, that you're going to talk about the human services.
Yeah, everything. I'm Jen today, and I'm Anthony today, and I'm Ray today. The Human Service Transportation Plan, the next meeting of the committee is going to be held on June the 16th. And so that will be is with the other counties representatives, and that's the quarterly meetings. As you know, that the rural service, transit service will be handled by Connect Transit starting July 1. And so will no longer be the sole bus, and then meaning the county and our staff and Connect Transit has been kind of working together in how the transition and publicity. So let the county, McLean County folks know, especially the folks in the rural area, know the new provider and what kind of services and all the changes. So that's an ongoing thing. Connect Transit is doing most of that, planning for the engagement. So that's the latest on that.
Questions? Okay. Go safe.
Go safe. That's the SS4A grant. We have had a meeting last Friday with the consultants for the project steering committee starting today, and I'll be sending flyers out to you all and to promote. Really, it's a survey. Really to get input from different folks about safety, and there'll be website information. There'll be a mapping link that people can actually touch using the laptop, iPhone, and point out areas of concerns. And so it is a public campaign that's going to last for a few weeks. Public press release it's just gone out this afternoon, so you may see, hopefully, get the immediate attention on this public engagement for the plan that is being developed. And the next meeting will be on the 27th of June. Usually they meet the last Friday, the fourth Friday of the month. And so there will be consultants talking about public policy assessment. We'll be talking about public engagement. There will be stakeholder group interviews. There will be 4 different groups will be meetings virtually this month. This week and next week for the on education group. There's public safety group. There's like parks and recreation, bike and pedestrian group, and also the education. I forgot one, but there's like 4 groups meeting to provide further input to the plan. And so that will be the main thing for this month, and then those will be input will be collected, and then will be feeded back to the consultant for further development. So it's on track. Again, the plan is due in September of this year, and then new MCRPC will be asked to consider approval at that time, but we'll keep you posted.
Okay, good. Any questions for you on that? Ray, next is the Veterans Parkway Corridor Project.
The next meeting will be next Friday, the 13th, Red Friday. But it's making progress. Lots of work will be done. Next Friday, in fact, is going to be a expanded meeting in that there will be a workshop with the project steering committee, and there are more activities. And the consultants will ask for help from the project steering committee in identifying what's details on the alternatives, on the different segments along the roadway for consideration. So they have done a lot of different reports, and so they're looking at more details right now, and they are entering into the third phase of the fourth phase project. And some of you all serve on the committee. We appreciate that, but again, it's ongoing, it's on track, on time, and it's still to be completed September 2026.
Okay. Then finally, you're Anthony now, so you can talk about strategic land use plan that we got a preview of.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, Anthony, who's been doing really a lot of coordination and great work on this project, is over at the City of Bloomington Planning Commission meeting now. It's one of the meetings that he and to work with the city staff, county and town staff in this strategic land use plan. And this is an offshoot of the regional, let's say a larger regional comprehensive plan update. The strategic land use plan is really more like in response to all the development pressure that the city, town, county have been experiencing. So we have been working with the staff, the different jurisdictions on an existing land use plan, and also a draft future land use maps. And those being completed. So one of the things that Anthony's doing now, and also tomorrow night, as well as what he did with the county zoning board back in May, is to show some of the preliminary results, and that's really an effort, a joint effort with the city, town, county staff, and just try to get input from the planning commission members as well as the zoning board members. And with that, then there will be a discussion with the staff further, and then we'll take it out for like a public comment period, which will be like will take 3-4 weeks time, but we want to get some input after tomorrow night. The town on normal's planning commission meeting to see if any changes, critical changes need to be made, and then we'll take it out to the public for comment, and we'll keep you posted once we do that. So that's kind of the gist of it. We anticipate that completion date for the land use, the future land use map, to be July of this year, in fact. But then for the bigger, I call it bigger, is the regional comp plan, and that we have also completed a draft existing condition report. And let me just share really quick. You don't have to study it, but you'll take with you. Just to kind of lay out the process we have in particular sense, how the way we've been proceeding, and there's a lot of like plan elements, and we anticipate is going on. It's a lot of work, but also is thank you. It's also it's a joint effort, collaborative effort with the town, city, and town staff. As you see, a lot of plan elements that we try to capture, and land use being really the one that we've taken out to have more focus because of development pressure, economic development opportunity. But then we're not overlooking the other ones, and so we're keeping the different steps, and then with the goal of having this up for adoption consideration in July of 2026.
Okay. Would you email this to everyone?
Yes, yeah. I plan on emailing this as well as the presentation by Mr. Watson earlier.
Okay, good. Is there any other issues that needs to come before the commission today? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
if I may, really quick,
Yeah, one.
yeah, just few things. Mr. Watson mentioned earlier this Saturday, the National Trails Day celebration. In fact, our staff will be participating. Jay is helping to coordinate. We're going to set a table. The flyers for the SS4A, the Go Safe Action Plan, will have surveys to be passing out. We will have swags to promote traffic safety. So we participate in that event. And then also on the 17th of this month, we have a regional freight summit. You by now should have received an invitation if you're so interested and available. June the 17th, Tuesday afternoon at the Public Library, Bloomington. And I know a couple of you will be there and encourage all of you. This is our first and ever that I know of that we hold this. And this is a great opportunity, and we're doing this in coordination with IDOT. And so it's for our region. Hopefully we'll do well, and then we'll see what will happen next.
Anything else?
So that's all.
Okay. Anything else needs to come before the commission today? Okay. If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Second? Second. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Anything on the radar with regard